Hello, Lauren. I'm a part of the Respect Your Leadership program, and I'm here to ask you a few questions about your life growing up. Where did you grow up, and what was your school and football like?
I'm from Newry, born and bred. In the early days, lived in a few different parts, Lockfleet Park. In the very early days, then after that we moved up the Dublin Road to Braddock Close, and then shortly after that we moved down to the Warrenpoint Road, Uplands, and that's where I spent most of my childhood. Gaelic football then, started in the Abbey Primary, and then in the local street leagues. And back then, you played with other people from the area that you grew up in. So down at One Point Road, you had Carnford Park, Tora Park, Oaklands, going right up into O'Neill's Avenue. So the street league was formed back then to get young people off the street and into a bit of football. So that's where it all started.
What team did you play for?
Multiple teams. Newry Shamrocks and Gaelic has always been. You don't move clubs really when it comes to Gaelic football. I had a short stint with Down under 21s and Down seniors for a while. Soccer. When I came out of the Abbey Primary, I failed my 11 plus and I went to St Mark's. There was only two of us in the class that headed down to Warrenpoint. So that was a pretty daunting experience, but one that turned out to be a fantastic 5 years that I spent in St Mark's. And I went down to St Mark's. I made friends with a couple of guys from Warrenpoint, and they were playing for Warrenpoint Soccer, and they asked me to join. So I was the only Newry fellow that headed down the Warrenpoint Road every Saturday morning for a bit of soccer. And then a couple of years later, I played with a few local teams in Newry growing up then.
Do you have any memories of playing football?
Plenty. Probably more bad than good. Certain injuries along the way can held me back at certain things, but look, majority of it has been good. When you think of the relationships that you build, the friends that you get throughout playing football, and you remain friends with them throughout the rest of your lives. You make many memories along the way. And yeah, it was, for me personally, it was a good choice to be a part of football. Yes.
Do you feel like football has changed since you played?
If it's Gaelic, yeah, remarkably so. At what level it's changed, at club level, it's changed at county level. Obviously with the different rules, but I certainly feel if growing up now for young fellas or girls, particularly in the boys' side of it, that the demands of Gaelic football are a lot more now than compared to when I played. When I'm talking the age group that I'm talking about is sort of 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. There seems to be a lot more expected from young players now than there was back when I played. I wouldn't go as far as to say that it was more fun back then than it is now. Obviously, if kids are enjoying it now and they're enjoying the demands that comes with it, we'll then do it. But that element has certainly changed at that age level of growing up still.
You did a cycle in July 2021 for your dad, John Murphy. Can you give me an insight on it?
Yeah, the dad was, he's a better footballer than me, definitely. Yeah, he would have been well renowned throughout the GAA circles of being definitely a legend, and if you had been here today, you probably would have been better interviewing him than me. But unfortunately he passed away in 2020, just the start of COVID. He got diagnosed with cancer and unfortunately died a couple of months later. So that was May 2020, and as a family we wanted to do something in his memory, but we just didn't really come up with an idea that wanted to be a wee bit different than the norm, particularly in the area that we're in, climbing the Mourne Mountains or maybe doing a half marathon or a marathon or something like that. They're just an appeal. So most people back at the time of COVID got themselves a bicycle, but never really been on a bike before, apart from when I was a youngster. And I took to the cycling a wee bit, and I had been out on a run one day, and I must have unintentionally passed a couple of clubs. I think it was on out sort of Salvo direction, ended up in kind of Clone, came back up into Banbridge, we passed Clanabana's pitch, and then I came back at Erg's pitch, and I was never there. I knew there's a club back at Erg, but I never was at that pitch. And the penny dropped me then. It was like, clubs is down, and is there something that we could do, maybe ground them? So I came home that day, and I decided to do it. Brother Galvin, what do you think of this idea of maybe cycling around all the clubs and down, 48 or 49 clubs and down? Right, so this reaction will be a minute. How are we going to do this? So then I mapped the idea out in Strava over 3 days. I took it to Barry Monaghan, a very well-known cyclist here in Newry, and asked for Barry's advice. And Barry said that it's very achievable, but you need to put the training in, like anything really. So we got ourselves together, asked the rest of the family what they thought, and we did it, and we got a team together, a couple of, again, another local cyclists, Rory Loughlin, and Mark McGivern. These guys have done triathlons, different things. We needed a couple of experienced heads to go out on the road, instead of a bunch of amateurs. There's about 10 of us, so we needed that leadership and direction as we took round the county. But a very, very memorable experience, and you know, one of the guys that was with us, it would have been soccer. Not so much about the GAA, but as the day unfolded and we were going around all these clubs, particularly as we started off in South Down and that nice Cuckoo and all that enough, the amount of people that we were met with was just phenomenal. About 30, 40, 50 people standing with a check. It was very overwhelming going to certain clubs, and just obviously how much my dad meant to certain people. So we did it over the 3 days, and this particular guy who'd been more soccer orientated and his upbringing, not really in the Gaelic side of it, turned around to me, Gavin, at the end, he says, I now understand what the GAA community is. He says that was just what he witnessed over 3 days was fantastic, and he says you mightn't have got that in the likes of the soccer or maybe other sports, so he really understood that community feel with the GAA. So yeah, again, and you're going around the whole of the county down, we had to make the fundraising appeal to everybody, so we raised 68,000 over the 3 days, and we donated, I think half of it went to the Southern Hospice here. Father was in there for about 5 or 6 weeks before he passed, and then we donated, I think, a quarter of it to the NI Hospice, the Children's Hospice, and then a quarter to the Cancer Fund for Children in Newcastle. So they all got a fair lump of money, but how it was received, and you know, it's coming up to, what, 4 years? Every year it goes past, I think I'd love to do it again, but it'll never be the same, and you can't expect the people to come out and support it the way that they did. First time, it was really a one-off event, and one that, you know, with great memories. And the weekend couldn't have been any better. We did it at the start of July, 1st, 2nd, 3rd July. There was hardly any rain. I don't think there was any rain at all. And it was tough, but I suppose out of the whole experience, the most memorable day was the last day, because there was a tight core of 12 of us did the first 2 days, and we finished the second day in Portaferry. And we stayed that night in Portaferry, and the plan was to get up the next morning on the last day and do the coast road home, and do most of the clubs right down the from like Caliph, and then there's Ardglass coming right down into the couple at the bottom foot of the Mourns there, the Unrakes, the Ballymartins, the Longstones, Addy Call coming around with Straver, Burn, whole way up into Newry. But we got the ferry across in the Strangford, and we were met. Had friends, ex-Down footballers, Ronnie Murda, Danny Hughes had made the journey up to join us on the way home. And then we were joined by the Rossi, the cycling group in Straver, and just more and more people just seemed to bolt on to this cycle that kind of evolved over 3 days. And the Rossi guys really did take us home, because after the 3 days of heavy cycling, maybe 80 mile a day, 90 mile a day, yeah, we were pretty tired. We need them guys to pull us through. But another great memories in the second day, when we were up and round Downpatrick area, and Gary Mason met us in Loughlin Island, an ex-Down player, 91 and 94, He was on the bike journey with us, and we came into Downpatrick, and Barry Breen met us. He played in 91. And to see these guys out on the bike, it was just remarkable. But we were leaving Downpatrick. The next club after Patrick was Saul, and then from Saul it was up to Darracross, and then up into Belfast, up into Kerryduff. And we were leaving Downpatrick, and Barry Breen said to me, "Where's the next club?" And I said, "Saul." So I had the route all mapped out on Strava from beforehand. So we were heading right down to this road, and Barry turned around and says, "Carl, there's a quicker way to go if you want to take this route." And I went, "Right, okay, Barry, this is your area, so we'll follow your lead." And then something just said to me, "No, don't." And I said, "Barry, hold on a wee second. Can we just stick to the route?" And he says, "Yeah, no problem, Carl." So we stuck to the route, went down round the corner, about 50 yards up the road, we could see this guy sitting on a bike, just waiting for us. Who is that? As we got up close, Greg Blaney. Now, Greg Blaney, like he an absolute legend in Down and beyond. And there he was. He, back in 91, 94, he would have been one maybe the older members of the team. You see the likes of him sitting there waiting for us. And he joined the cycle the whole way up into Belfast. And again, it was just an example of how well got my father was back then. So yeah, it was an achievement that as a family we're very proud. Two sisters, Lee and Fiona, they got involved in a spin-a-thon back at Newry Shamrocks where we were doing the cycles. So from the whole family's point of view, it was a tremendous effort, and one that was greatly perceived by the charities involved. Yeah.
What's the best advice you were given, and why? And by who?
Managers or coaches give you advice all the time, as do I as a coach, giving out advice. It's what you do with that advice. Looking back at my own career, potentially it could have been better. Did I always take on board the advice that I was given? No. Do I regret that? Yes. And these are things that you learn growing up. Your football career goes very, very quick. I'm sure a lot of people have sat in this seat and said that before me. And it's true. And as a young player coming up, and you hear people saying that, and you probably say, "God, sure, I'm 19, 20, and not 10 years at it." It just does disappear, because one bad injury could wipe out 2 years. Something else, family commitments, whatever it is, could wipe out another year. So the advice, I suppose, that the best advice that I got that probably didn't use was to cherish them times that you're playing football, because it does disappear so quick.
And do you have any advice to give to a young person looking to play?
Just building on that, again, if we're talking about Gaelic football, it's first and foremost, you have to enjoy it. You really have to enjoy it to go out. There's no point in doing something if you don't enjoy it, and there's nothing wrong with that. If there's another sport out there, go and do it. It's really up to that individual and to go and do what they want to do, as opposed to maybe, I wouldn't say being forced to do what you do. When I grew up, all I knew was Gaelic and soccer. I didn't know anything else. I wasn't forced to do anything, I wasn't pushed to do anything. It was my choice to do it. But could I have done other things? Maybe, but I just didn't explore them because I loved Gaelic and soccer. And the advice is, you do go back to what I said a minute ago. It does go so quick. So really enjoy every moment of it, because you are a long time not playing it. I suppose if you look at the elite level of football now, when you look at inter-county and the demands of them footballers, there's very few inter-county footballers now go on and play, maybe have a 15, 16, 17 year county career. One or two in between. Like Murphy come back from Donegal the other day, was brilliant to see. But definitely at that top level of Gaelic football, is definitely a young person's game. It's definitely sort of that 18 to 23, 24. It used to be that you could go right up to 29, 30, 31, 32. There's few and far between now. Just the demands of, not only the demands of the physicality of the sport now, but also the demands of football and, the demands of home life, of maybe being married or maybe having a young family. So they all can take place then as you get into your mid-20s, yeah.
So your dad was a part of the 91 and 94 team. Do you have any memories of that?
Yeah, some great memories. At that time I would have been maybe around about 11, 12, 13. And and I was fortunate enough to be the ball boy on the team. In '91, I probably going back to the previous year of 1990. That's probably the earliest memories I have. Even for a couple of games, but 1980, the team got to the National League final. A big demise. I just remember being in the banquet kind of thing after Cook Park, and we weren't used to things like that. Maybe only 9, 10 at the time, and then in 1981, yeah, the All Ireland came out of the blue. Brilliant team, and just being involved in everything, players meetings, team meetings, every training session they did, and the whole build up to the All Ireland was down at Park Ezra, Shamrocks, and yeah, you were on the pitch hitting penalties at the goalkeepers, and there could have been 5,000 watching training. All these kids and who wanted to be on the pitch, and I was taking penalties just sort of in my leisure, thinking nothing else, but this was just the norm, because 6 months previous to that I would have been doing the same thing in a cold January night in Ballykinler or wherever they trained back then. So great memories of I was very close to my dad growing up at that stage, because he took 3 or 4 players to the training sessions like DJ Key and Collie Burns and that from Newry. So I would have been stuck in the car between these guys to and from Ballykinler maybe 2-3 nights a week. Probably shouldn't be studying back then, but I was caught up in the whole euphoria of the Down GAA back then. And then in '94, a couple of years later, we were older, probably around about 13 or 14. Again, fantastic memories. I just looked at these players, these Mickey Littons and the James McCartans and the DJ Kanes and the Conor Deegans. And in '94, I actually carried the base of the Sam Maguire out of the canal and all to the bus. It was bigger than me, the size and weight of the thing. And then the whole celebrations after up at Burlington Hotel. Yeah, great times, great memories. Which then a couple of years later, when I was brought onto the Down team the first time, I just don't know if I was prepared for that, because I was amongst these guys that I sat on their knees at times, 5 years earlier, or up their shoulders, or whatever it was, and then just being thrown into that mix of these really established All-Ireland medal winners, like the Mickey Littons and Micheál McGill's, DJ Kanes, and just, I was a wee bit taken back by it, by county football at that time then, yeah.
Who was the biggest influence in your career?
I suppose looking back over it, and when you look at different managers, going back to the question on a bit of advice, there's no one manager that knows everything. Every manager brings their own wee bit to the table. So you might learn something from one manager, maybe he said that or she said that, whatever it is, but when you bring all the sign of a good player is if you can bring all them things together and learn from all these, and take it going forward. But the biggest influence is probably undoubtedly my father, and it's strange because he won his All-Ireland medal in 1968. He was only 18, 19. He played the minor final 2 years before that, 1966, and they lost that final, and then they beat Kerry in 1968. So for me to comprehend that as an 18-year-old myself, it was very, very difficult. As a child, when you grow up, you don't appreciate, or I certainly didn't appreciate how, I won't say famous is not the right word to use from my father, but I didn't realise the impact that he had on, other players, and people that he coached, i.e. the Down players, because he coached them Down for, I don't know, it could be 12, 13 odd years. He did coach in the Shamrocks, and he coached me for 1 year, 1 or 2 years in the Shamrocks, selector, manager. And it's only really that as you get older, certainly with teenagers, I didn't appreciate him in that sense. He's your father at the end of the day, so you're just used to getting father talks, as you know, what not to do. So it's only really as you get older and you kind of look back and think, wow, what did he actually achieve? That's just remarkable. So it is. Certainly over the last maybe 10 to 15 years, just gaining a better understanding of that. And like when you hear the Down players talking about him, they held him in such esteem as they did. So he's definitely probably the biggest influence. that I've had in a football world. Right? Yeah.
What's your current involvement with Newry Shamrocks?
So Newry Shamrocks currently, I am with the coaching ladies football, and I've been doing that for since 2018. The last number of years I was treasurer and vice chairman 3 years ago, so I'm heavily involved. But this year I've decided to take a step back, run my own business, 4 kids, so it's a busy world. So something had to give. So, but the coaching, I enjoy coaching. The reason why I got into it was this Newry Shamrocks had a very successful ladies football team, and it just kind of stopped or just sort of fell away a number of years ago. So then Sean Gallagher and a couple of guys started up the academy, if you like. It must be 10, 12 years ago. And what we noticed was there was great numbers in the academy coming through. There was boys and girls, but they got to a certain age and then there's nowhere really for the girls to go because the girls had stopped. So it was David Kern and myself, a couple of daughters coming through at that age, in around sort of that 8, 9, 10, and he phoned me up and said, look, do you fancy maybe starting the girls football up in Newry Shamrocks again? So we started in April 2018, and I think we had 12 players up in the Abbot, and that has just morphed into it must be well over 100 players now. From it's great to see that under 10 team there now at minor level, with a minor team, an under 16 team, under 14, under 12, under 10, under 8. So it really has the popularity of ladies football, not only in Newry Shamrocks but throughout the GAA global. I think it's the fastest growing sports there is in the ladies. So it's brilliant. It's brilliant to see. It's competitive. I enjoy it. 2 daughters playing it, and I hope to continue. So the Newry Shamrocks, we're hoping to have a senior ladies football team maybe next year, or the year after. So it just shows you the progression that them players have made. And the most important thing for me is with them girls, number one, having fun. It has to be fun for that. And secondly, there's a huge drop off in girls' sport at the age 16, 17, 18. And, the way I sort of assess as a coach's job, you can assess and you can assess your coaching ability and trophies and different things. But the way I personally assessed my coaching ability was if I had 20 girls start of the year, I want 20 girls at the end of the year. And that when I had that meant a lot to me. Trophies is great, it's all part of it. If you pick up a few, certainly at underage, if you pick up a few along the way, but it's not the most important thing. The most important thing with them girls is having a social outlet, having somewhere they can come down, feel safe, get a bit of coaching, have fun, and learn and develop their own skills along the way. So that's what I'm currently doing.
Thanks for allowing me this opportunity to get an insight in your life, and I wish you all the best in the future.
Okay, thanks for having me. Got it.